That's
Hello, the three of us, four of us.
4 of us.
That was a great call, the kickoff call just now.
Exciting. Yeah.
I'm guessing everybody thinks that because that call happened. Normally, I don't do my call when the kickoff call happens, but that's because it usually was in my time slot. This is the first time it's in the earlier time slot, so some will join us a little bit late. Great call. I mean, I definitely want to recap some of the stuff. Let's see, I took screen captures of everything. Was there any questions that anybody had about anything?
Well, I think most of the questions I had were put in the chat. Like, what if
Good.
somebody wants to come back under somebody else? I mean, that should be their prerogative, right? I wonder if they can make that work.
Well, so there's exceptions. In other words, if there's a specific case that you want them to handle, then you need to inform NICAN about that. They didn't give us a touch point, a contact point, but I'm guessing it'll be anybody at customer service that can make that happen.
But Maggie, if you're looking at the We Accelerate, it's so much more beneficial to sign them up if they want to be somewhere else to have the double PV for 4 months. So, and now it's 6,000 to go silver. I mean, maybe if they're platinum or that, I can see that, but to move legs or move different things, it might just be beneficial to reinstate them new and help them get there. I don't know. Just a thought I had.
You're saying rather than them reinstate, I'm not sure
After their previous rank and be somewhere else.
Oh, I see. So you're saying instead of capturing the previous rank, if it's silver and above, then that's the only time that's even a question. And they might want to capture their previous rank to go from customer to silver. They would be, if they're currently your customer, then they would then be your first level silver.
Yeah,
that's what would happen. They wouldn't be put back down some chain where, you know, there may have been a bunch of people who've left in between at the same time. And if there is a chain of people 1, 2, 3 in a row where they start to come back in, you actually are given, if I understood the message correctly from Frank, if you want to reorganize that, you can. I don't anticipate that being a big issue. It might happen every now and then, but just the idea of people being able to come back as a consultant is great. If they get their rank back, that's great. Yeah. Yes, you forfeit the We accelerate bonus, right. But now you have an active builder, so potentially anyway, it's a 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's a judgment call. But I'm not going to be sitting here controlling all of this. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen in the background anyway, right?
Mike, what do they consider inactive consultant or consumer that they can come back? How long time-wise?
10 years.
Sorry?
They're going back 10 years.
I understand that part, but how about somebody that purchased something a year ago? Do they fall into this category?
Anybody in the last 10 years who was a consultant and then was demoted to customer because they didn't renew is going to be given the opportunity to get back into their distributorship.
What I was wondering was with the campaign and to be able to do the broadcast email, that's amazing.
Well, yeah, I've got my notes of what I'm going to talk about. Paula, do you have a question?
Yeah, as far as Barb was saying, why not just sign them back up? But if you sign them back up, there's a charge, and if you just reinstate them, there isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really matters what's the intention, and if you're even aware of it. I mean, are you going to even be aware of it if somebody actually reinstates? You're not going to be aware of that unless they reach out to you. You might just all of a sudden get an email from NICAN saying congratulations on your new reinstatement or something. So I don't think you're going to have that much control over it unless you're in contact with people, which then suggests maybe that is something to do, to start reaching out to people and asking them if they do want to come, if they do want to be reinstated and have their rank provided for them, etc. It gets a conversation started, that's for sure. You can help convert some of your customers who were consultants back into consultants. I mean, I don't mind the idea of a customer upgrading their account and becoming a consultant again. You know, that means they're going to be actively promoting Nikan and are likely to then become 2 or 3 or more people. So that's really the goal behind all of this, is to increase the base of consultants. Yes, we've been asking for this downline broadcast feature for quite a while. So I'm very, very pleased to see that we have that. There are some restrictions, of course. You don't get to shoot your whole complete genealogy except once a month. Personal group 2 times per month. They didn't mention network of leaders. It just doesn't have anything beside it. Frontline customers 2 times per month, and any particular ID you can be very specific with. 100 males. I'm gonna ask if this is going to be rank related as well, because Royal Diamonds shouldn't have as many restrictions, I would say, because we simply have a bigger organization to communicate with. But yeah, that's one beautiful thing. Barb, did you have something about that? Barbara?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to add, though, I would like to know when they're doing their blasts of their campaigns, because that was brilliant. I had 2 people call me from the PCC. PCC.
Hey, Collagen?
Yeah, email. And they said, do you want me to sign up from the email, or do you want me to, do you want to help me with it? And I was like, let me get it under your customer account and talk to AutoShip and stuff. So that was great. And that's from the Nikan campaign. So that was brilliant. The other thing is, I had 2 calls this week because people got notice that they were going to have their AutoShip shipped in 2 days, 2 or 3 days. And I have been working on that one for years with Frank and that. So that's a God gift that people get a heads up about their AutoShip, so they can change it, go check it out, and move things around or add things to it. So yeah, I just wanted to underline that too, Mike. What campaigns they're looking at promoting, and then so we can align with them and not do it at the same time too.
Exactly. The other feature that was mentioned, Nikan News and Events and Nikan Digital Tools, both. I just got the message here from Alejandra. The links, I'll share the links shortly. For people to be okay, so one of the things that we need is connectivity. We need to create community, and tools. One of the things that I've always done is digital tools. That's why I have the tools chat. It's where I can personally resource all the tools that are relevant for me to share with somebody new in the business, and I don't know how you guys are organizing them on your end, but I had asked for the digital tools, which was started by Ruben, but then it was sort of hijacked by Jeff, and it became a mishmash of stuff. And so they're now segregating the digital tools are strictly tools that we use for business building activity to share with other prospects or downline, versus news and events, which Jeff has been primarily using the Telegram channel for that. What's great about this is that anytime, and you need to make this a staple, it's got to be as ubiquitous as WhatsApp is for you and your team. Because once they're on that chat, you don't have to worry about getting them caught up with stuff that you may have missed sending them because they just joined the chat. In WhatsApp, if you join WhatsApp group today, you don't get anything that was there before. So if you're brand new to Nikan and I want to send you tools, I got to scroll through the tools thing and fire like 20 different things all at once to you, which is overwhelming, versus just getting you onto the Telegram, the digital tools on Telegram, and everything that ever was is there already. And I can just say, scroll through that, you'll find this or that, or I'll point something out, but the resource is there for them, irrespective of when they join Nikan, a year from now, 10 years from now. So Telegram has a much better feature where that's concerned for digital tools. Definitely want to get everybody onto that. Yeah, we talked about the activation thing. So yeah, I guess that's about it. The only other thing that was mentioned that I think is worth re-mentioning is the anniversary. I don't know if you've made your plans yet to be at the Nikan 35th anniversary. I had a nice conversation with Kim Woodward, who is stepping in to the role of our upline for most of us. And we discussed a little bit about how that might go, like how she can participate more and maybe what she could bring a very unique and fresh perspective to the table, not being unfamiliar with network marketing and certainly not unfamiliar with NICAN, but definitely fresh and different from the perspective of somebody who hasn't been in the field building a NICAN business. So I think there's other assets that she brings in terms of her relationships, her parenting skills, and other things that she's been involved in, real estate and whatnot as a business person, that I think is going to be great. But one of the things that we both agreed on, and she was very quick to point out, was we need an event. It was like, I mean, we need a live event. I'm like, man, I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I was just talking with Ben about the possibility of hosting some kind of a leadership. So the idea of NICAN going back to live events, with, of course, NICAN's main event being the October event, which is usually in October, and then some other alternate event for field leaders, which would be, I don't know if you remember how that used to go, but it was really about the opportunity to share time with people that you wanted to learn from. We had usually a very small agenda, but it was more personal time with people. It was more strategic. It was more relationship building. We forged most of our NICAN leadership relationships at our Maui event. Our NICAN leadership event in Maui, that was always where we met the next grouping of superheroes in NICAN. That's usually where they ended up. And so that event is a recruiting event for your elite distributors. It's the place you want to make sure you bring your key potential leaders, your superstars to be. So I think we're going to resume that. I'm going to talk more with her about when we can schedule one. It may or may not fall in line this year because it's a little bit short notice. We would have had it in July if we were to have it this year, given the October event. So it's probably going to be more like a destination event in the early part of the winter of 2025. So maybe kind of like that Maui getaway or something of that sort, somewhere where it's a little bit warmer and sunny and people want to be around the water and a swimming pool and hobnob with the rich and famous, I guess. I don't know. So that's something that I think we can look forward to as we resume our live rhythm of the business events schedule. So if that's something that you want to participate, especially you, Barbara, in helping to put that together, then yeah, we definitely are going to need some help with that.
When are you
now,
thinking, what time frame? Is this like in the spring or?
well, when we did Maui became a February event. So I really need to look at the rhythm of the business a bit more closely, but February would be the most likely time for an event.
And I was thinking of the Cancun. We went down, wasn't it Cancun we went to, and it was an all-inclusive kind of.
I think that was a little bit like maybe a March or something.
think
A
so.
March
It
or
was April.
April. It was April?
April.
So again, same sort of thing. The early, I don't think we want it to be in the spring. I think we want it to be just sort of, I mean, a lot of people like to plan their vacation time.
And it was a long weekend, like a long weekend, or not a whole week, I don't believe. It was more like a Thursday, in on Thursday, all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing, or?
Yeah, something like that. It would be at least 3 days, because otherwise you're not going to have much opportunity to do much. So, yeah, there would be at least
I do
3-day
remember
event.
learning more things just floating in the pool, talking to people and just rubbing elbows what they're doing.
One of the big things that we learned at that event was the tap rooting, that concept of how to build your structure, how to build your tree. And that's something that we don't really teach anymore. We should. Barbara, your hand?
The Cancun event, most people arrive for the full week. So they had 3 days of offsite activities first,
Right.
and then like there were a number of events held right at the resort. And then
Cancun's a great spot too.
big beach party.
Yeah,
Huge
Cancun's a
beach
great
party.
spot. And then we can also welcome some of our Latin American friends who are not far from there either. So they can help contribute to the excitement and share their know-how. Speaking of sharing know-how, so how many of you got something out of Sophia's presentation last week? I'd like to hear what sort of struck you. Because I mean, she's my daughter, of course, and I'm super impressed with her and always have been. But this was a different experience for me as well. She's come a long way since when she was, getting her feet wet in Nikan, and she was being showcased to, a person who really, wow, I was just blown away with the depth of her understanding and appreciation and compassion for real life, and some really simple concepts that I thought were brilliant. The one that I really liked was
Mike,
making.
I actually, I liked it as I got a chance to listen to it a second time.
Terrific, yeah.
At first I was a little bit taken aback because it seemed a little new ageish, but in retrospect, it's not as bad as I had initially thought. Paul and I talked about it a little bit, and his perspective gave me a little bit more assurance, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, people are, like she started off with, why don't we set goals? Or we don't set goals, we make decisions. I mean, that the distinction there is hypercritical. Goals are kind of wishes, wishful thinking. But when you make a decision, and especially the word committed decision, she referred to that because Bob Proctor used to talk about that all the time, is when you make a committed decision, then your frequency changes. When your frequency changes, everything changes, because we live in a world that responds to frequency, doesn't respond to wishes. So it's an important distinction that if we're going to be business owners, if we're going to be successful in our own ambitions, then we've got to become people who are knowledgeable about the way to attract success. We need to be able to do that willfully, not wishfully. And there's again, huge distinction between willing something into being and wishing something into being. Nobody wishes anything into being. It doesn't happen. It's willed into being, and that's a process that's very lawful. And if you're somebody who comes from a biblical background, I can give you all the quotes that point that out very, very clearly, that it is a lawful process how we attract success. Barbara, you have your hand up. What's your wins? What's your gains, insights?
Well, one thing that I picked from what Sophia said was not only consistency, but you've got to make the decision, act on it every day, but don't expect instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared to not expect to see any results for possibly at least 90 days before you start to see the results of that first seed you planted 90 days previous. But you got to hang in there. You got to do the activity every day if you want to see the results start to come to fruition.
And that's especially true depending on how big the decision is. If it's a small decision, it may not take 90 days. It may take 9 minutes or 9 days. But if it's a big decision, 90 days is the least I would expect. For instance, when I made the decision to go from diamond to royal diamond, it was 5 months, the gap between the day I made the decision and the day I became a royal diamond. And I needed all but 6 hours of that 5 months because I got it completed within 6 hours of the timestamp. So the bigger the decision, obviously we have to give it more time to manifest, to materialize. But you're right. there's a
But
gap.
we have to commit to it. She mentioned that several times.
Yeah, there's a gap.
Commit to your decision.
There's a gap you have to live through where the outside world is not a reflection of the inside world. The decision has been made on the inside. It's inside out. Manifestation is inside out. So the decision is made internally, but you don't get to see it on the external of your life, on the screen of your life, which is the physical, until it has had a time to mature, to just like anything, like when we plant a seed of corn, there's a time to sow the seed, and there's a time to reap the harvest. That's true in all of nature. So it's not uncommon. But that's the part that most people fail to completion. They don't allow the seed to germinate. They don't allow it to actually pop up through the soil. They stop watering it because they don't see it happening fast enough. And that's where
People
discipline
today
comes
want
in.
instant gratification.
They do. They've been programmed to. So part of our job is to be disciplined and teach discipline, because success comes from discipline. It's one of the key attributes of success in Think and Grow Rich. Discipline. Well, what does it mean, discipline? It means what we're just talking about, where you keep on keeping on in spite of what it looks like. Maggie.
Yeah, I want to underline what Barb Richmond said, because the whole thing about delayed gratification is a reprogramming of what we are trained to think life is all about in our three-dimensional world. And I think as leaders, it behooves us to really remember that and to work with especially new people to allow that time. And, if they're not watering the plant, we can water it for them. We can be a bit of a master gardener while they learn to be a gardener. And there was so much in Sophia's talk. And one of the things I really, really was impressed by, and I sent her a private message about this, was how she was able to transform a potential negative situation into a beautiful lesson for everybody, because she's a listener, and that is key. That's one of my big things. People really need to learn the skill of listening, not just the words, but everything. And I watched her body language, and she listens with her entire being. She's the epitome of presence and attentiveness. And so in that is the gift that she has at such a young age, to really hear people, no matter where they are, no matter what's going on in their world. She gets into their world without judgment and helps them to see that they can transform that to something really beautiful.
The key word there is without judgment. She is not quick to judge, and I think I could learn a lot from that, because I am very quick to judge. I don't have nearly the patience she has, but yeah, for sure. I was just reading my notes here. You have to become someone else on the inside than you are on the outside. 90-day window to sustain the new identity until the results support your new identity. This is self-mastery, and you got to be able to do that without the evidence. So self-mastery or discipline is this delayed gratification, and the ability to hold in your mind's eye a result in spite of the circumstances, how they may appear. And I can tell you, I was put to the test. I've told this story before, but I remember one of my front line had to go platinum in order for me to go roll down. I had to have 6 platinums, or I had 2 diamonds, but I had to have 4 more platinums. And I had to create 2 platinums from zero in those 5 months, 2 brand new platinums from zero, and 2 golds had to go platinum, one of which was a straggler. This person was a career gold. They'd been gold for like 6 years or something like that. It was embarrassing. So to get that person to go was going to be challenging. That was going to be probably the more difficult thing than it was to help somebody brand new go platinum, believe it or not, because I knew better and I knew how to structure a launch better and so forth, it was easier for me to launch somebody brand spanking new who's supercharged and excited into a platinum ship than it was for me to convert the mindset of a stagnant gold to do what it takes to go platinum, which was double what they, at least what they had done already. So the moment happened where I was in my car. I had a red convertible Mercedes, thanks to Nikan, tan leather interior, and the top was down, and I was on my drive from Ottawa back to Toronto from a meeting that I had in Ottawa, and it was the month before it had to happen for me to complete September, so it was August. It was August, and it was like 3 days left in the month. And this person calls me up on my phone, and I answer the phone, and they're all in a panic. And they're saying this person that they had that was going to finish executive, that would have made so-and-so silver, and that would have turned them into a platinum, and the whole thing was imploding. And I took that and I listened, and I was sympathetic, and I swear to God, it was like I actually heard it go through one ear and out the other. This thought went through my head. And the thought was, aren't you glad you gave yourself an extra month? So that thought, had I acknowledged that thought, had I succumbed to that thought, I would have backed off my intention. I would have allowed my guard to come down, and I would have altered my frequency, which would have altered the date, which would have altered the outcome. So I get off the phone hearing that, aren't you glad you gave yourself an extra month? And I'm like, oh no, that's not how this works. And I remembered what I wrote on my goal card, faith of a mustard seed, faith of a mustard seed. So I pick up the phone, call this person back immediately, and I said, cancel, cancel, cancel. And they were the same. They were like, yes, 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 cancel, cancel, cancel. I don't know what I was thinking. I said, and then we turned the conversation into, isn't it going to be interesting to see how this actually happens? We turned it into a no-win situation into, man, is it going to be interesting to see how this actually comes to pass? And we got off the phone, we recommitted our intention to the outcome. 24 hours, I get the phone call. Mike, you're not going to believe this. That's usually how those calls start. You're not going to believe this. But I just met a guy. She just met a guy, did not go through a process, did not go through first conversation, second conversation, third conversation, ABC call, none of that. 5,000 point order. Bang. The silver was done. She was platinum. Just like that, like right out of thin air. But was it really out of thin air? It was simply the law of manifestation, the law of attraction coming to pass because we remained in tune and committed to the end in mind. And that was a moment for me that was, I'll never forget. I mean, this happened like, God, I don't even know how many years ago now, 27 years, 28 years ago, a long time ago. And it was so succinct because it's exactly what Sophia is talking about here. Self-mastery is catch yourself when you are undermining yourself and recommit to the original intention. That's self-mastery. Nobody's telling you to do this. You have to be aware to do it yourself. Barbara.
Yeah, you were talking about Sophia, and that's brilliant, Mike. What you just said and what you underlined was tremendous. What I liked was her really just being transparent with her failure. And it was like, like, what is that? Like, what did I do, or what didn't I do? Or, and to state that all the successes are built on all the times that we have failed. And then she was able to just like own it to a degree that she could then create and continue to create and see. Well, really, the pulse check was she evaluated what I sent out, what worked, what didn't work, what was even done. What do I need to do to relaunch I guess the retreat is what I was hearing, but just the whole, I call it throwing up the flagpole, but the whole reevaluation of everything that she was creating, to kind of look at it at a 360, and then bring it back down and go, okay, now what? Now what do I do? And then continue to pick it up and pick up the bootstraps, or whatever way you say it, and continue on. And that's what I was, one of the big things that I underlined, aside from what everybody else has shared as well.
The notes that I got from that exact thing: look at the results objectively as data. It's just data. Put on your CEO hat and find a solution. So don't go get it all emotionally wrapped up in what's not working. Just say, okay, it's data, it's feedback. There's some adjustments that I need to make, and put on your CEO hat and allow that solution to come through. Because if you're emotionally engaged, like I was on that phone call, I was certainly sucked into the emotion. And that's when the voice goes through my head. Aren't you glad you gave yourself an extra month? Because I got sucked into that frequency. And then when I realized I heard that voice after the call, I'm like, oh, no. That's not how this works. I'm supposed to stay focused and committed on the end in mind, and no distractions, nothing in between. Called her back, re-engaged. And that was putting on my CEO hat and saying, isn't it going to be interesting to see how this solution comes about? Because now I'm actually telling the universe, present the solution. I'm listening, rather than succumbing to the failure, which would have been the end in mind itself. That would have been the result. Anyway, good stuff. Barbara, you have your hand up again.
I do. There was just so much value in her presentation. I loved it when she said, your sense of self-worth is not constant. It's fragile. Don't leave it to chance. I also liked how she made the connection that our heart is the doorway to the subconscious mind. There were so many nuggets in her presentation. So many.
Failure is success in progress. Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
I got 2 pages of notes, so I have to. Oh, this is an interesting one too. She talked about upper limit, this glass ceiling that we have on how much good we can allow ourselves to feel. That's an interesting one. That meditation that she took us into, she took us to a place where you had a real connection to a feeling.
Yeah.
It was one of the highs of your life. And the reason why it was important to have that connection was to remind your body, every cell in your body, what it feels like to feel that feeling. Because if that's your business strategy, then what you are going to attract is that feeling and all the circumstances that support that feeling. So imagine, I'll give an example. This is a simple example. A lot of people, when they're young and they have a breakup, or there's this one person, they insist it has to be that person that makes them happy. No, it has to be them. We have to make it work, and blah, blah, blah. They insist it has to be that person. So what they want is the feeling, but they're projecting that feeling can only come from that one person. Now, what if the feeling was what they got? Would it really matter where it came from, who it was? If at the end of the day, the feeling was what they wanted and they got the feeling that they wanted, would it matter whose face was on the person that was creating that experience? No. So by projecting what you think it has to be, instead of allowing it to unfold as it will be, that accommodates the feeling you're after, that's the way the universe works. Same thing. The idea here is, if we allow ourselves to feel good about something and get connected to the feeling, then we will attract circumstances that allow the feeling to be that. Any number of circumstances. Sue, you have your hand up.
What I took away from it, I love to watch young people. And especially, I know there are so many unique young people out there, and too much notoriety is given to the ones that are not doing the good things. But what I took away from it most was how wise and how strong she is for her young age. And I expect that one day she's going to be like a Maya Angelou, because she just, it's heartfelt. It just, I was dumbstruck listening to her. And I just loved where she took us with her, what do you call it? Her,
Meditation.
thank you very much. With her meditation. She just is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Again, that's, I mean, I spend time with her, but it's not usually in this kind of a context. So to see how she actually operates in the business context, it's impressive. She was talking about this thing called priming, right? That's where the feeling was, the idea of the meditation was to get us into a state where we are priming, let's call it the magnetic field of attraction or whatever you want to call it, to attract more of that in our life. And the example she gave was the coffee, right? It was the hot coffee and the cold coffee.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really impressive, that how they were primed without them being aware changed their interpretation of the information and the facts that they were subject to, the questions that they were asked. They had a completely different take on that. So how does it affect us? Meaning the information that we're living with in our life on a daily basis. We have interactions, we see stuff on the internet, whatever, our bank account, that's all information, it's data. How we internalize or interpret that information is a function of how we're primed. So imagine then you're subject to bad news first thing in the morning. First thing you do is you pick up your Facebook and you start to see all the crap that's there and whatever. And so right now you're priming. You don't realize it, it's subconscious. You're holding the cold cup of coffee, and what they're pouring on you is a bunch of cold stuff, you know, really bad. This is awful, this is bad. Now you're primed. Now you go about your business of everything you do, but now it's primed with a certain disposition, and you're going to interpret that a certain way, which affects how you feel, how you act, and therefore the results that you perpetuate, versus controlling how you're primed first thing in the morning, controlling the information you allow in. Like maybe you have a meditation tape like hers. Maybe you have, I don't know, a book you read, something that you create the prime yourself. You control the prime, so that now as you go about the same business of life, the prime is orienting you a certain way to internalize and interpret information, which then affects your feeling and your output, and therefore what you receive in return. So I believe priming has to become of utmost importance to all of us. It has to be how we condition our day. We have to start by priming with what we want to be in alignment with. It's huge. That was a real, like, boy, that was a great example. Maggie.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up again, because I realized that meditation, and I listened to it again after that. The second time I listened to it, the experience that came up for me, that was that absolute, oh my God, this is so amazing, I'm so in joy, was and you'll remember this, Michael, when you pinned me diamond at a Team Diamond event. It wasn't the NECAN convention, and you talked about diamonds and all that sort of thing. And I remember being there, and Madeline, you were there, you were in the front row cheering me on, as a lot of my friends were taking pictures and so on. And I felt, I don't know, I don't even know what the words are. I just felt extreme joy. And when I tune into that even now, and that was 12 years ago now.
Yeah. 10, 12.
Yeah, I think, well, it was 2012. So at the end of 2012, so it was 2013, 9. Yeah. So anyway, 11 years at least. So I go back to that, and it shifted something in me, because my as you know, my commitment this year is to be a qualified diamond. And we say our mantra every morning on this call I have with my inner circle group, and it's always been that. And every second day it would come out Royal Diamond, and I'm going, nah, I'm not a Royal Diamond, you know, that whole thing. And now I'm starting to think, why not? And it goes back to that feeling that I experienced on stage with you and everybody else who was at the event.
Maggie, something you called me today, impromptu call, and you said, hey, I've got somebody I want you to meet. And she was 20, what?
20.
20 years old. Young gal, 20 years old, who she's studying to be a naturopath. Is that what it was?
No, she's a naturopathic doctor. She's been in
Oh,
practice
she is
3 months.
Okay, very new then. And she said she met you online. Can you tell me the story?
Yeah, it was through something called Alignable, and I think some of the people on this call are on Alignable. And you know, I've been on Alignable for probably 10 years, ever since it first came out. And this is the first time I have connected with somebody that it's been boom, boom, boom. I connected with her. She lives in my hood. I said, you know, I'd love to have coffee. We had coffee last Thursday, and then I invited her to come to experience the wellness home because she was really interested in everything, you know, having to do with wellness and so on. So she came today, and you know, I just did lots of demos and so on, and showed her the main things in the packs. And then I said, you know, there's nothing of pressure here. If there's something here for you, I would love to have you on my team, because I told her what I saw in her. And she just said, yep, I want to be part of this. Okay, let me call Michael.
Now
And
you
then I sent her the video of Savannah and Elena and Sophia when they were just 3 months into their business, because I thought it'd be good for her to watch that, because they're talking about why they joined Nikan. So I sent her that, and then we'll go from there.
please remind us of that. Please share that video on the chats, because I've completely forgotten about that video too, and it's probably a great video. But what caught my attention was, okay, so Maggie, do you think maybe your attitude has attracted this person for the first time in 10 years? You got something going on in a channel that you've been a part
Well,
of.
it started with Joan Jack, and now it's just continuing, Maggie.
Well, it started with a decision I made in December, Michael.
And there you go.
Yeah, and I don't think it made a difference. I know.
And that's
What it sounded, excuse me, Mike, what it sounded like to me was the example that Luis gave tonight. Instead of sitting down with her and saying, well, this is the kind of money that you can make, all that you did was just gently invited her, and, you know, no pressure. It was just a very Luis, humans being more approach.
Yeah, very much.
fantastic. Well, okay, so we're looking at, we have these examples in our own life. This is not rocket science, it's reality. The thing is, we need to remind ourselves, we need to prime the pump. We need to prime ourselves with some degree of regularity, like daily, so that our daily thoughts and our daily actions are consistent with what it is that we want to experience. Then we will draw to ourselves circumstances that are, hey, for 10 years I was on this thing, nothing ever happened, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, this happened. That's what happens. You start to make miracles happen.
Mike, I'm going to interrupt real quick.
Yes, please.
Maggie, underline for us, because I was there and I witnessed some of it. Your shift. Well, I could. I don't know if I want to, but I could. You're back in December. You know, because you really did that. You were like, do I not? So you want to share, like, what was that, and what was the catalyst that just said, I'm committing to this?
That's a good question, Barbara. Well, I was in the landmark program, and the focus of the program was to have a project, right? And a project. Oh, Michael, I've never seen you with a pet.
That's Jade.
And and so the project for me became the May 11th event that I had committed to at Boss in December that I was going to have in Vancouver on May the 11th. So that became kind of the ultimate piece of this project. But in order to make that worthwhile for Luis and Michael and everybody that was coming, I needed to have new people there. And so I really started to focus more on the possibilities of attracting leaders. And Joan Jack was part of the landmark program that I was in. And she actually came to me and said, "What is it that you do? I'm really fascinated." And I told her, and she was just like, "Oh my God, I've been looking for NECAN for the last 10 years or 15 years or something." And I'm going, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" And
I didn't, Maggie, even weren't you meeting with her? Were you not meeting with her at the Boss event? Is that who you met with when we
no,
were?
no.
That was
That
someone
gal, Boss event didn't even order a product. She's still out there. I haven't given up on her. I'm going to say we're going to be in Long Beach in October. Why don't you join us? And she did come on as a consultant, but she didn't even order a single product. So, and I've had, I think I've had 5 or 6 people join the December, and that's more than I've had probably in the last 3 years, to be honest.
Mhm.
And yeah, this gal that came on board is coming on. We're signing her up tonight. Is coming on board now. Like I've been saying, and especially after listening to Sophia again, we need these younger people. We need. I mean, Joan she's younger than I am, but she's in her 60s, right? And so here, this 20, really, and a very bright star. And the couple of the gals that were at the event in May, who will be part of Roxanne's team, are in their 20s. So we're building some momentum for this legacy that we are a little slow in creating, right, Michael? And now's the time.
Well, I want to remind you about the online HBM that Jeff does every so often, because it's a really nice kind of little overview of everything. And it might be something for the one that was out in, Irvine. But Mike, I also wanted to say, Maggie, are you done? Because I wanted to share.
I am. Thank you.
Okay. So Mike, I was there when Bob Proctor put you on the mat. When you were making I could see your mind thinking, it was something ridiculous, like what, 32 silvers, or I don't know what it was. In my head, it was like that for you to go Royal Diamond and by a certain time, and the whole thing. And I was just like, oh my word. But I could also hear your conviction, like the whole shift and the things that occurred. So I just, that there is something to that, really, defining it, stating it, and then stepping into it. That ownership of it is tremendous. And so that had me go get my book out off the shelf.
Oh, nice book.
A while ago, which is The Science of Getting Rich. And when I was going from Diamond to Royal Diamond, there was a built-in incentive, and it was called $45,000 left on the table, because we weren't really paying attention, and we were doing really well, and Diamond was happening, and things were going, and we were making really great money. And all of a sudden we realized, oh my gosh, if we went Royal Diamond, we could make, it was 30, then it was like 40, and then it became like 40. We were leaving $45,000 on the table by not being Royal Diamond, that one level down. And it was like, oh my God. So Bob had us visualize, well, not only how would your life change if you had another $50,000 a month? Like, what would it be? No, what arenas would you be playing in? Where would you be? What is your passion? And I remember, Mike, you had something about education as well, and reading, and I had something about reading and education. So it kind of mapped on with you and that. And it was like, oh yeah, globally, like helping everybody should know how to read, like just this whole thing of like how to help the world read, or, and then, but then he told us, and I'm bouncing it off of a really good friend of mine. Well, y'all know him, Igor. And I just said, I have down 4, 14, 7, and 11, but I really think it was like 4, 11, 7. And somehow we threw 14 in there. But you ended on 11, which was gratitude, the chapter of 11. And I was to read that morning and night for 90 days. Okay. Those chapters. Now read the book, right? But those chapters I read religiously. There's not many pages in the chapter, but I did that for 90 days. We did go roll of diamond. I remember Steve was coming home. I call him my husband, but he was coming home from New Orleans and I was going there. So he was in a restaurant the night before he was leaving, and he was talking and so excited that the people behind him in the booth heard and came up and said, excuse me, like, what are y'all talking about? Like, what is this? You know, my wife has trouble sleeping and I just want to find out what y'all are talking about. So he schedules an appointment. I thought the next day, the day I'm flying in. He actually scheduled it the day after. But I get there the next day and I'm knocking on the door because I got a demo I got to do with this, because we're on Royal Diamond. We're just changing the guards and doing this stuff. And then people go, well, we thought you were scheduled for tomorrow. I said, well, I'm here today. Like, isn't this your great news? And I just walked in their house. I just started doing the presentation because it was like, but I'm here today. And they're kind of like, who are you and where'd you come from? My husband scheduled this appointment. I just flew in and I'm here. And so like, you're going to hear me. And, you know, they did come on board and they did plan the stuff. And it was just that like you were talking conviction, Maggie, and, you know, but there was no way.
This is a great transition to the next point that I wanted to make, which was joy is your business strategy. Nothing is more magnetic in business than a person in joy and gratitude. So think about that. If you're priming yourself by reading that book, for instance, which ends on the chapter of gratitude, and so you're priming yourself. That's exactly what Bob had you do. He had you priming yourself so that when you went out into the world, you went out with a preconceived vibration that's going to attract a certain thing to it. And so did Steve. And so what did it attract? It attracted attention, right? It attracted people who wanted whatever the heck you're on. Remember that movie, When Harry Met Sally? I'll have what she's having, right? That's what happens. So we talk like, I can't believe this. We're talking like this is the first time we're hearing it, but it's not. We've heard this a million different ways. And we know it's true, and we know we have examples. We just need to continually remind ourselves. Why is it that we have to remind ourselves? Why is it that we have to prime ourselves? Because I'm not a cynical person, I'm a realist. And the reality is, most of the information that's bombarding my headspace on a daily basis, if I don't control it, is negative. Most of the chatter in the world is negative. And we are conditioned from very, very early stages to see the negative. So we don't see the positive, we see the negative. Misery loves company. We get all hooked up into the drama of somebody's breakup. When they're fine, who cares? But when they break up, the drama of that, what did Sophia said? We're so addicted to pain and suffering. We've been conditioned to that we gravitate to that. So whenever there's anything out there, flashy news, whatever, that's pain and suffering or whatever, we're attracted to that. That's the undisciplined mind, the unbridled mind, the mind that has been allowed to be taken for a ride for the last 50 or 60 or 70 years. If we gain control of that mind, we can create incredible things. And we see example after example of that, even if they're moments in time, small windows in our life where we do the extraordinary. The extraordinary was done because the first thing that changed was the way we were thinking. That's what had to have changed first. So we've got to make the point of aligning with success as our priority on a daily basis. We have to tune in, and then we will attract according to what we're tuned into. Barbara, last comment, we'll wrap up.
We've heard it all before, but I think what made the difference this time that woke many of us up that were maybe just sort of coasting in this almost dead space, was hearing it from a young person, from the younger generation, with so much wisdom, so much enthusiasm, but totally transparent on what she had been through to get to what she is manifesting now. That was a wake-up call for we old dudes. You know, we veterans, whatever you want to call us. We've heard it, we haven't applied it. But that was a wake-up call for us to start smartening up and applying it and bringing more young people into the realm of what we have to offer.
We have that wisdom. We have our own stories. And there's a lot of young people who want the success of their own. They want access to that experience, to that understanding. So we don't only have an opportunity for them to leverage, we also have history, experience, the team, the collective wisdom. That is a huge offering, guys. Let's not sell ourselves short. We have such a tremendous offering. If anybody could put up with us long enough, they're going to come away realizing, my goodness, what a warehouse of information, knowledge, success that I can glean from and hack. I have a life hack into success. I can make things happen really quickly because I can bypass the school of hard knocks. So yeah, good stuff. Great call. Thanks for your feedback, your contribution. I'll post this as soon as it's ready. And yeah, well, let's see, where are we? We're at the beginning of June. So let's make June a great month.
Tomorrow is Kim's call in the morning.
Yes, tomorrow noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Kim is going to do, Kim Woodward is going to do her first call. Let's support her. And yeah, I think it's a great new beginning for her, for us. And I'd like June to be a very specific month. I put an incentive in place for my Canadian team, which is a sponsoring incentive. I want people to focus on sponsoring people and helping them achieve the rank of senior. It's not a huge thing, but it's a something. And that's the incentive that I've put out there because we need to focus on growth. That's what we have to do. We've got to attract some people into this wisdom adventure here. I mean, great stuff. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Outstanding call tonight.
Good night.
Good night.
Congratulations, Maggie.
Yeah, congratulations.